This is the exact reason why I keep encouraging you guys to share your point of view in the comments, just like Mr. Andrea Penzo has done in this video, in which it was to be seen Vlad versus Timur, but from the 1 versus 1 perspective. Because indeed, Andrea is right that the reality on the battlefield, it's a different one. You're rarely gonna have a 1 versus 1. In most of the cases, it's gonna be at least 2 opponents on you, and sometimes even more. Therefore, yes, in order for us to conclude on Vlad, we also gonna need this episode in which I'm comparing Vlad with Timur on cavalry, but this time versus multiple opponents at once. So my answer to you, Mr. Andrea Penzo, is allora, avanti ragazzi. So beautiful people, let's do this. So the test was done with the help of the support depot boss, and you can clearly see here the numbers of the battles which were saved, so 40 of them. But we also have to mention that in each battle, you are getting attacked by 4 different setups at the same time. And yes, I have extracted the numbers from all 4 opponents in every single of these battles. Therefore, you're gonna see 20 battle reports with Timur and 20 battle reports with Vlad on cavalry. But in reality, there are actually 160 battle reports. So let's briefly have a look at the setup. And here I must confess, I honestly wanted to remove the entire gear from all the heroes. Somehow I forgot to do that on Attila, but it doesn't matter because the only difference between these 2 setups is actually the middle position, which is Vlad or Timur. And in this case, Lubu, Timur don't have any gear. I have chosen to keep the rings. In the case of Lubu, yes, this is a very powerful ring, the Ring of Daisy, which I also normally use on him. When it comes down to Vlad, well, I had to switch to a different ring. I'm gonna show you in a second which ring I was actually using. I took the Lord of the Eastern Heaven. And of course, on Attila, I'm using the Ring of the Night Wolf. As normally I have the Ring of the Deer on Lubu's setup. But especially when it comes down to this testing, I really wanted to eliminate this random factor, because it's not guaranteed that this 15.8% will gonna be applied on Lubu. Maybe it's gonna be applied on the other 2 heroes. I don't want this to influence the battle results. That's why I use the Lord of the Eastern Mountain. And let's briefly scroll down also to a setup with Timur, because again, you're gonna see the same thing, the same setup, actually also the horses. Attila remained with the gear on. The ring is the same, Lord of the Eastern Heaven, and of course, no gear on Lubu, and the horses remained on their position. So let's actually take this setup and have a look at these 20 battle reports. And here we go, beautiful people. These are the numbers from all 20 battle reports, which basically in reality are extracted from 80 battle reports. And it was important for me actually to display the damage per second for all 3 heroes. But most important one will definitely gonna be Lubu, so the blue field. And of course, the overall march damage per second, it's also very important. So all 4 columns are sorted from the best performance possible, being on slot number 1, all the way down to the worst performance possible on slot number 20, and they are sorted separately. And let's have a look at Lubu, because he is the main damage dealer. It doesn't matter if you have Vlad in there or if you have Timur, Lubu is the king. So Lubu will gonna reach an average damage per second of 10,565 points. And also later on, I'm gonna present you a beautiful graphic, because this is exactly how the result in games like Age of Empires Mobile are. There is rarely a case in which you're gonna have the same value, because the result, it's an interval between here upstairs being extremely lucky, all the way down here in which you are extremely unlucky. So this is the performance interval. And of course, when we have a look at the overall march damage per second, here we see that the average is 11,450 points. And again, these numbers are also sorted, and it's also to be seen that the interval is a very big one due to these random factors, starting from you being extremely unlucky at a value of 6,853 damage per second, all the way up to the maximum performance which this march achieved, which is 22,499 points. Well, now let's have a look at the numbers with Vlad, and then we're gonna put both numbers back to back, and then we're gonna wrap everything with a beautiful graphic. So here are the numbers, and as expected, Vlad will do a little bit more damage than Timur because the heroes are different to each other, but they have a certain impact on the entire march performance. And again, super important in here is actually the result interval for Lubu, because again, you see this from the numbers. Lubu is the main damage dealer in here. So when I was extremely unlucky, I reached a damage per second on Lubu in this configuration of 6,519 points. And when I was extremely lucky, well, I reached double that value, which is 13,247 points, which is crazy. A very big interval. When we have a look at Vlad's column, sure, he's going to do more damage than Timur. And here we see an average damage per second coming from Vlad in this configuration of 2,131 points. And when it comes down to Aila, well, nothing has changed because his main role is actually to buff and not to do damage. So we come now to the overall march performance. Again, these values are sorted in order for you to clearly see this result interval, in which when I was extremely unlucky, the average damage per second of the entire march was 8,275, super low. While when I was super lucky, well, that was double that value, which is 16,706 points. Well, let's put a second both these setups back to back with the numbers in order to highlight you first the difference on Lubu's performance. So here we are, beautiful people. On the left side, we have the setup with Vlad. On the right side, we have the setup with Timur. And let's focus on the blue column, which is the performance of Lubu on both sides. So here you see, when I was absolutely unlucky with Lubu's performance, together with Vlad, I have reached a value of 6,519 points, while on the other side, when I was extremely unlucky on Lubu, but then with Timur in my march, this value was slightly lower, so 6,263 points. And when we have a look at the maximum value in this interval, well, the difference is far bigger. So Lubu together with Vlad and Aila, maximum performance is 13,247 points, while Lubu together with Timur and Aila reaches 20,721 points. And of course, that's also reflected in the average damage per second of Lubu within these two different setups. So 9,273 damage per second with Vlad and 10,565 damage per second together with Timur. So now let's focus on the overall march performance, which is basically the most important thing. And here, pay attention to the color, because that's the color which you're going to see in the graphic. In red, you're going to see the march Lubu, Vlad, and Aila. And here we see the average performance, 11,745 points. And in green, in that graphic, you're going to see the overall march performance of Lubu, Timur, and Aila. So let's put the graphic on the screen. So first of all, again, the two lines, red one representing Vlad, green one representing Timur, and basically both lines represent the entire interval in which you potentially can get one of these values as a result from a battle. And we also have to mention that these values obviously are sorted, as it's far easier for you to actually see the difference. So when we start with a situation in which you are extremely unlucky with your Vlad setup, well, you're still going to start at the overall march performance of a little bit over 8,000 damage per second, while in case of Timur, well, that's far lower than 8,000. And up these values, all the way up till here, which is a huge portion of the entire possible results intervals, we see this difference kind of constantly being there, which is, by the way, 2.57%, super low. But this also have to be mentioned because it's also absolutely possible to be extremely lucky. And if you are using Timur, well, look where this value lands. Over 22,000 points. While if you are using Vlad, the maximum performance or the maximum spike which you can reach, it's a little bit over 16,000 points. So there is indeed a difference. And also in this graphic, you are seeing this interrupted red line and interrupted green line, which represents basically this average damage per second, which is 2.5% in general, approximately. So now let me formulate the conclusion on Vlad, on Timur, on Buriga. Now, from my perspective, after seeing these numbers, I honestly gonna keep my Timur on my cavalry. because this difference is actually super low, while potentially I can get some pretty awesome results, and my Lubu mainly is gonna be probably in some rallies. Therefore, I can put Vlad instead of Burica and get a slightly better performance. But these two videos have actually an even higher value for the rest of the viewers, because there are a lot of players which don't have Burica. And sure, you can invest in Vlad, use it together with Cyrus and Mansa Musa, and you're gonna have a crazy setup. Or if you are in the process of building your cavalry and you do not have Timur, sure, you can invest in Vlad, use him together with Attila, and later on you can switch Vlad to the pikemans. But I would suggest to wait for another alternative for Timur, especially if it takes you a long time to get these items, to bring these support heroes at least at 3 stars, beautiful people. So anyways, this is the conclusion on Vlad, and this video is proof that sharing your thoughts, sharing your point of view, and even criticism on these videos do indeed have an impact. In this case, reading the comment from Mr. Andrea Penzo made me realize how important it is to make this episode very, very fast and to bring it out, because people still have Vlad now on the wheel, so they can potentially take advantage of that. And yeah, beautiful people, making such high quality content for Age of Empires Mobile does indeed take my entire free time. Therefore, support what supports you back, and there are 2 ways to do so. One way is absolutely free, and honestly, I don't think you have an excuse not to do that, because all you have to do is just simply subscribe to this channel, watch my videos till the end, share this channel with your friends. And the other way to support this channel is when you are making a purchase, why not take advantage of this channel sponsor, which is Eneba. As doing purchases through Eneba, you're going to get far more items for your money, and at the same time, using the link which you're going to find in the video description, on the screen, and even in the messages, you are greatly helping this channel. And I also must thank the people which already have done that. Thank you very much. And as always, beautiful people, thank you very much for watching, and I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Ciao, ciao, ciao.